I'm Adeline. I'm 26 years old, and for 3 years I've been raising my sister's 4 children as if they were my own. My bakery business went under, leaving me broke, so I moved in with her to start over. But instead of rebuilding my life, I became her unpaid nanny, cooking, driving, and mothering while she worked nights and barely showed up. I juggled a part-time job at a coffee shop and online graphic design classes, chasing a dream that felt further away each day. Then, one night, she dropped a bomb. I'm pregnant again. The 5th one. My stomach lurched. I had sacrificed everything, my savings, my goals, my freedom, and now another baby. I was done. I can't keep doing this, I snapped, my voice trembling as I stormed to my room. Her face hardened as if I'd betrayed her. I decided right then to move out, to finally live for myself, but she didn't let it go easily. Her reaction was explosive, and things quickly spiraled out of control. What happened next turned our family upside down. Looking back, every day with my sister's kids felt like an endless battle. I'd wake up to the usual chaos. My alarm would go off at 5:30 a.m., and I'd drag myself out of bed to get the kids ready. The oldest, Logan, 15, was already arguing with his sister, Callie, 12, about who got the last Pop-Tart. "You ate mine yesterday," she yelled, slamming the pantry door. I stepped in, splitting the pastry in half just as Hunter, 9, spilled orange juice all over the counter. Nora, 6, was clinging to my leg, begging for braids before school. I barely had time to swallow a cold coffee before I was herding them all into the car. The school run was a circus. Logan blasting his music, Callie complaining about math, Hunter asking random questions about dinosaurs, and Nora singing off-key. By the time I dropped them off, I had a splitting headache. I rushed to the coffee shop for my 6-hour shift, steaming milk and forcing smiles for grumpy customers. "Can you hurry it up?" Some guy in a suit barked, as if I wasn't already juggling 3 orders. I made $15 an hour, barely enough to cover my phone bill and gas. After work, I'd pick up the kids, help with homework, and throw together spaghetti while another fight broke out, this time over whose turn it was to feed the dog. Juliana, my sister, worked night shifts at a big box store with her boyfriend, Caden, so she was either sleeping or gone. I saw her for maybe 10 minutes a day when she'd mumble, "Thanks for holding down the fort," before collapsing on the couch. The nights were my only escape. After I tucked Nora in and checked Callie's algebra, I'd open my laptop for my graphic design classes. I'd always loved creating logos, dreaming of my own studio, but watching Photoshop tutorials at midnight felt like chasing a ghost. My eyes would burn with exhaustion, and I'd fall asleep mid-lesson, waking up to a dead battery. One night, she shuffled in, asking why I looked so tired. "Just trying to keep up," I said, forcing a smile. She gave me a hug, and for a second I felt needed. But then it hit me. Needed for what? To change diapers, drive carpool, wipe tears. This wasn't my family. I started to realize just how much I was carrying. Logan needed rides to soccer practice. Callie had a dance recital I couldn't miss. Hunter's science project was due, and Nora's asthma meant constant trips to the pharmacy. I was burning through my savings, $3,000 from my failed bakery, on their school supplies and doctor co-pays. Juliana chipped in sometimes, but her money went to rent and groceries. Caden, who worked the same shifts, never offered a dime. "You're just so good with them," Juliana would say, like it was a compliment. It wasn't. It was a trap. I was living her life, not mine. One afternoon, I called Gemma, my best friend, to vent. "I'm drowning," I told her, pacing the kitchen while the kids watched TV. Gemma, who had her own freelance design gigs, didn't sugarcoat it. "You're not their mother, Adeline. You can't keep putting your dreams on hold." Her words hit hard. I glanced at my laptop, opened to a half-finished logo project, and realized I hadn't submitted anything in weeks. My professors were sending emails about missed deadlines, and I was falling behind. The kids weren't the problem. I loved their chaos, their quirks, Logan's sarcastic jokes, Callie's shy smiles, Hunter's endless questions, Nora's sticky hugs. They were family, but I wasn't their mother. Juliana was, and she was barely present. Caden acted like the kids were my responsibility, too. I'd hear him joke with Juliana about teamwork, but their teamwork meant I did everything. I started doing the math. 10 hours a day with the kids, 6 at my job, 3 on my studies. That left maybe 5 for sleep if I was lucky. My dream of designing full-time, of building something for myself, was fading. One night, after Nora cried herself to sleep over a lost stuffed animal, I sat alone, staring at my sketchbook. Lately, the only things I'd drawn were stick figures for her, not the bold designs I used to create. I closed it, a tightness in my chest. I wasn't just tired, I was disappearing. Every day I spent raising Juliana's kids was another day further from who I wanted to be. I loved them, but I couldn't keep sacrificing myself. Something had to change, and soon. A week later, I was folding laundry when Juliana burst through the door. Her face was lit up with a smile I hadn't seen in months. Right behind her was Caden, her new boyfriend, carrying a pizza box and looking smug. "We have news!" Juliana said, her voice high with excitement. She grabbed my hand, pulling me to the couch. "I'm pregnant. The 5th one. Can you believe it?" Caden nodded, setting the pizza on the coffee table like it was a celebration. My jaw tightened, but I forced a smile, murmuring, "Wow, congratulations." Inside, I was reeling. Another kid. I was already stretched to my limit, and they were acting like my job was to cheer them on. That night at dinner, Juliana dropped the real bomb. "We've been talking," she said, glancing at Caden, who leaned back with a smirk. "You're so good with the kids, Adeline. We need you to step up. Maybe quit the coffee shop job to focus on them full time." I froze, my fork halfway to my mouth. "Quit my job?" I repeated softly. Caden shrugged. "Yeah, we're swamped at the store. With the baby coming, we can't handle it all." Juliana jumped in. "Besides, money's tight. You could contribute $300 a month for rent. It's only fair, since you live here." My pulse hammered. $300. I was barely scraping by, dipping into my savings for her kids' needs. I tried to stay calm. I already do everything. School runs, meals, homework. I can't quit my job. Juliana's eyes narrowed. "You're here, eating our food, using our space. You owe us," Caden added. "It's just temporary. We'll figure it out after the baby." His casual tone made my blood boil. Temporary. I'd been their crutch for 3 years. I pushed my plate away, standing up. "I need to think about this," I said, walking out before I said something I'd regret. The next day, I called Gemma while the kids were at school. "They want me to quit my job and pay rent?" I said, my voice shaking with rage. "They're acting like I'm their live-in maid." Gemma didn't hesitate. "They are using you, Adeline. You're not their employee. What about your design classes, your future?" Her words hurt, but they were true. I'd been so consumed with keeping their family afloat, I'd forgotten my own goals. I hung up and stared at my laptop, where an unfinished logo project sat untouched. I was falling behind. And for what? To play mother to Juliana's children. Over the next few days, Juliana and Caden kept pushing. "Think of the kids," Juliana said one morning, handing me a list of new chores. Grocery shopping, doctor's appointments for Nora's asthma, soccer fees. Caden even suggested I sell my old bakery equipment to help out. I wanted to scream. They weren't asking for help. They were demanding I give up my life. I started noticing how they dodged their responsibilities. Juliana would sleep through the kids' arguments, leaving me to mediate. Caden would hang out after work, joking with Juliana while I cooked dinner. I was invisible to them, just a tool to make their lives easier. One evening, Logan caught me packing up my laptop after a late study session. "You okay?" he asked, his usual sarcasm gone. I hesitated, then said, "I'm trying to be." He nodded, as if he understood more than I thought. The kids weren't blind. They saw everything I did, but Juliana and Caden acted like it was my duty. I went to bed that night, my mind racing. I couldn't keep this up. My savings were dwindling, my classes were suffering, and my dream of designing was slipping away. I had to find a way out, not just for me, but to show the kids I wasn't abandoning them. I started browsing rental listings online. My fingers trembled as I typed. $300 a month. I'd rather spend it on a place of my own. I wasn't their servant, and I wasn't going to let them treat me like one anymore. The next afternoon, I was helping Callie with her history homework when Juliana stormed into the kitchen, arms crossed. "We need to talk," she snapped, her voice cutting through the quiet. I put down the textbook, bracing myself. "What's up?" I asked, keeping my tone even. Juliana didn't waste any time. "You're not pulling your weight, Adeline. I asked you to step up, and you're still working those coffee shop shifts. It's irresponsible." My breath caught. Irresponsible. I'd been managing her household for years. "I'm doing everything I can," I said, my voice sharp. "I cook, I clean, I drive the kids every single day." Juliana rolled her eyes. "That's not enough. With the baby coming, we need you here, not off chasing some hobby degree." I stood up, my chair scraping against the floor. "My design classes aren't a hobby. They're my future." Juliana laughed, a cold, bitter sound. "Future? You live in my house, eating my food. You think you're too good for us now?" Her words hit like a slap. I wanted to fire back, but Callie was watching, her eyes wide. I took a deep breath. "I'm not your servant, Juliana. I've given you 3 years of my life." She stepped closer, her voice low. "If you're not all in, then maybe you shouldn't be here at all." I froze. She was kicking me out. Before I could respond, she turned and walked away, leaving me shaking with rage. I grabbed my phone and called Gemma, pacing in the backyard. "She called me irresponsible," I said, my voice tight. "She thinks I owe her my entire life." Gemma's voice was calm but firm. "Adeline, you have to set a boundary. You are not her employee or her mother. You deserve your own space, your own goals." I nodded, though she couldn't see me. "I know, but the kids need me." Gemma cut me off. "They need their mother, not you sacrificing everything. Find a place for yourself. You have savings, right?" Her words sparked something in me. I'd been so focused on Juliana's demands, I hadn't thought about what I could do for myself. That night, I opened my laptop and started seriously searching for apartments in Madison. I found a few listings, small studios downtown for around $850 a month. My savings, $3,000 from my old bakery, could cover a deposit and first month's rent. I'd have to keep my coffee shop job, maybe pick up extra shifts. I started crunching the numbers. My heart pounded with a mix of fear and excitement. I could do this. I had to. But the kids' faces kept flashing in my mind. Logan's quiet concern, Callie's shy hugs, Hunter's endless chatter, Nora's sticky hands. Leaving would hurt them, but staying meant losing myself. The next day, I sat Logan down after school. "I'm thinking about moving out," I told him, watching his face. He frowned, fidgeting with his sweatshirt. "Because of Mom?" he asked. I nodded. "I need to live my own life, too. But I'll still be here for you guys, just in a different way." He didn't say much, but I could tell he was processing it. I spent the evening creating a budget. $850 for rent, $500 for utilities and food, $200 for my classes. My coffee shop pay, $50 an hour, 30 hours a week, would just cover it if I cut corners. No more new clothes, no eating out, no extras. Juliana noticed my distance over the next few days. "You're acting weird," she said one morning, catching me scrolling through listings on my phone. I didn't look up. "Just planning," I said flatly. She scoffed. "Planning to abandon us, typical." Her words stung, but I didn't take the bait. I was done fighting on her terms. Gemma texted later to check in. "You're doing the right thing," she wrote. "Don't let her guilt you." I held on to that, knowing I had to break free. I wasn't just leaving a house. I was reclaiming my life. By the end of the week, I had a list of apartments to visit and a plan to make it happen, no matter what Juliana threw at me next. A few days later, I snuck away after dropping the kids at school to see my first apartment in Madison. The studio was small, just one room with a tiny kitchen, but it was mine to imagine, a space where I could breathe, work on my designs, be myself. The landlord quoted me $850 a month, plus a security deposit. I nodded, clutching my phone where I'd saved screenshots of 3 other listings. My $3,000 in savings would cover the move, but I'd have to stretch every dollar. Back at Juliana's, I kept my plans quiet, dodging her sharp glances. I wasn't ready for another fight, not yet. Instead, I focused on preparing the kids, starting with Logan. After dinner, I pulled him aside while Callie helped Hunter with a puzzle. "Logan, we need to talk," I said, handing him a notebook. "If I move out, you're going to have to step up." His eyes flashed with anger. "You're leaving us because of Mom, aren't you?" he snapped, throwing the notebook on the table. I kept my voice steady. "I'm not leaving you. I'm teaching you how to handle things." I showed him how to make a grocery list, plan simple meals like tacos, and check Nora's asthma inhaler. He grumbled but listened, scribbling notes. "You're 15, I said. "You're smart. You can do this." His jaw was tight, but he didn't argue. Callie overheard us and cornered me later, her voice quiet. "Are you moving out because we're too much?" she asked, twisting her hair. My heart ached. "No, Callie, it's not because of you guys. I just need my own space." She hugged me, her face buried in my shoulder, and I felt her silent sobs. I held her tight, promising I'd stay close. Hunter and Nora were harder. At 9 and 6, they didn't fully understand. Over breakfast, I explained that I might be living somewhere else soon. Hunter frowned, stirring his cereal. "Who's going to help with my science project?" he asked. Nora's lip trembled. "Will you still do my braids?" I assured them I would visit, but their confused looks lingered. I spent the next few days touring more apartments. One overlooked a park, another was closer to the coffee shop. I narrowed it down to a studio I could afford, running the costs in my head. My job brought in about $1,800 a month before taxes, enough for rent, utilities, and food if I gave up extras. I'd have to pause my design classes for a month to save money, but I could pick them back up. Gemma called to check in, thrilled I was moving forward. "You're taking control," she said. "The kids will be okay. They have you as an example." Her words gave me strength, but the kids' reactions weighed heavily. One afternoon, I taught Logan how to use the washing machine. "Load it like this," I said, showing him how to measure the detergent. He rolled his eyes but paid attention. "Mom never does this," he muttered. I nodded silently. Logan was starting to see Juliana's absence, and it hurt him more than he let on. Callie stayed close, helping Nora with bedtime stories, but her eyes were red-rimmed. Hunter kept asking when I'd visit, and Nora clung to me, whispering, "Don't go far away." I felt torn, but I couldn't back down. By the end of the week, I had scheduled a lease signing for the studio. I packed a small bag, my laptop, and some sketchbooks, keeping it hidden in my closet. Juliana hadn't noticed, too busy with Caden or sleeping off her shifts. I told the kids I'd be moving soon, but promised to call daily and visit often. Logan's anger softened to a reluctant nod. Callie gave me a drawing of us together, her way of saying she'd miss me. Hunter and Nora still seemed lost, but I hoped they'd understand in time. I wasn't abandoning them. I was teaching them how to stand on their own. As I finalized my plans, I felt a flicker of hope. I was ready to take this step, even if it meant facing whatever came next alone. The next week, I moved my last box into my new studio in Madison. It was tiny, with just a mattress and a desk, but it was my own space, a fresh start. I set up my laptop and a few sketchbooks, feeling lighter than I had in years. I sent a quick text to Logan, Callie, Hunter, and Nora, promising a pizza night soon. Juliana hadn't spoken to me since I signed the lease. Her cold shoulder was a relief after months of tension. I thought I'd left the chaos behind, but I underestimated her. 3 days later, my phone rang with an unknown number. "This is Officer Doyle with the Madison Police Department," a firm voice said. My stomach clenched. "We've received a complaint. Can you meet us at your sister's address?" I drove over, my mind racing. When I arrived, 2 officers were outside, Officer Doyle holding a clipboard and Officer Red scanning the street. Juliana was on the porch, her face flushed with rage. "She stole $500 and trashed our stuff," Juliana shouted, pointing a finger at me. "The washing machine's broken and the couch is ripped." I blinked in shock. I didn't take anything, I said, my voice firm. I moved out cleanly. Officer Doyle raised an eyebrow. Let's see the damage, he said. Juliana led us inside, pointing to a couch with a torn cushion and a washing machine that wouldn't start. She did this before she left, Juliana insisted. I shook my head. I haven't touched your things. I've been at my place all week. Officer Red examined the couch, noting old stains under the tier. This doesn't look recent, he said. He checked the washer and found a loose wire. Could be wear and tear, he added. I turned to Juliana. You know I didn't steal anything. Search my car, my apartment. Go ahead. Officer Doyle looked at Juliana. Ma'am, you're reporting theft and vandalism. Do you have any proof? Juliana hesitated, her eyes darting nervously. The money was in my dresser, she mumbled. She knew where it was. Before I could respond, Logan walked into the room, his face tight. I need to talk, he said, looking at the officers. My heart hammered. What was he up to? Logan faced Officer Doyle. Mom's making this up. That couch has been ripped for months. Hunter spilled juice on it last summer. The washer broke weeks ago because Mom overloaded it. And the money. She spent it on groceries and never told anyone. Juliana's eyes widened. Logan, that's enough, she hissed, but her voice trembled. Logan didn't back down. Adeline has been more of a mom than you have. She paid for our school stuff, drove us everywhere while you and Caden were barely here. I stared at him, my chest tight. Officer Red was taking notes, his expression neutral. So, no theft, no recent damages? He asked Logan. None, Logan said, crossing his arms. Mom's just mad because Adeline moved out. Juliana's face went red, but she stayed silent. Officer Doyle sighed. Ma'am, filing a false report is a problem. We'll let this go, but don't call us unless it's real. The officers gave me a nod and left. I pulled Logan aside in the driveway. You didn't have to do that, I said softly. He shrugged, kicking at a stone. You don't deserve this. You've always been there for us. I hugged him, fighting back tears. Back in my studio, I called Gemma, still shaky. Juliana tried to frame me for theft and vandalism, I said, pacing. Logan set them straight, but I'm done with her games. Gemma's voice was sharp. She's lashing out because she's losing control. Keep your distance. I agreed, looking around my bare apartment. It wasn't much, but it was mine, free of Juliana's lies. That night, I texted Callie to see how she was. She sent me a picture of her latest drawing. Hunter asked if he could visit, and Nora begged for a story over the phone. I promised to see them soon, but Juliana's accusation changed everything. Logan's words hit me hard. You and Caden were barely here. The kids deserved better, and I couldn't keep covering for Juliana's failures. I sat at my desk, sketching a new logo, my hands steady for the first time in months. Juliana could try to sabotage me, but I was building something new and no one could take that away. 2 weeks later, my phone lit up with a call from Logan. His voice was shaky. Mom's in the hospital. Something's wrong with the pregnancy. The kids are really scared. I froze, my coffee cup halfway to my lips. Despite everything, Juliana's accusations, her lies, I thought of Callie's tearful hugs, Nora's braids, Hunter's chatter. They didn't deserve this. I drove to the hospital, my mind racing. A doctor, Dr. Patel, met me in the waiting room. Your sister has placenta previa, she explained. She needs bed rest, possibly until the delivery. I nodded, my chest tight. 3 months. That's how long she'd be down. I found Juliana in her room, pale and quiet, a stark contrast to her usual fire. The kids need you, she said, barely meeting my eyes. I wanted to walk away, but Logan's call echoed in my head. I'll help, I said, my voice firm, but only for the kids, and on my terms. Juliana frowned, but I didn't waver. I'm keeping my job, keeping my apartment, and I'm not paying you a cent. I will stay for 3 months max to get the kids through this. She nodded, too tired to argue. I wasn't there for her. I was there for Logan, Callie, Hunter, and Nora. Back at the house, the kids were a mess. Callie clung to me, whispering, "Is Mom okay?" I held her, promising Dr. Patel was taking good care of her. Hunter kept asking why Caden wasn't home, and Nora refused to sleep without me nearby. Logan tried to keep a brave face, but his clenched fists gave away his worry. The house looked like a hurricane had hit it. Dishes piled in the sink, laundry overflowing, homework scattered. Caden was nowhere to be found. His work shifts at the big box store grew longer than usual. When I finally saw him, he barely spoke, just grabbed a beer and disappeared into the garage. "He's been like this since Mom got sick," Logan muttered. I took charge, but not like before. I showed Logan how to split chores with Callie, dishes for her, laundry for him. "You guys are the team now," I told them. Hunter and Nora got simpler tasks, like tidying their rooms. I held firm to my conditions. I came over after my shifts at the coffee shop to make dinner and check homework. I refused to sleep over, returning to my studio every night. One evening, Callie asked, "Why can't you just stay?" I knelt beside her. "I'm here for you guys, but I need my own place." She nodded, but her eyes were sad. Caden's distance made things worse. He'd come home late, barely paying attention to the kids. One night, I found Nora crying because he'd forgotten her school play. "He said he'd be there," she sobbed. I held her, my anger at Caden simmering. Logan overheard and scoffed. "He's checked out, always has been." I didn't argue. Logan was right. The family was falling apart and I couldn't fix it. Not completely. I focused on keeping the kids stable, making sure they ate, slept, and felt safe. Gemma called one afternoon while I was helping Hunter with math. "You're doing too much again," she warned over the phone. "Don't let them suck you back in." I sighed. It's 3 months. For the kids. I have boundaries this time. Gemma wasn't convinced. "Watch out for Juliana. She'll lean on you the second she's out." I knew she was right, but the kids' faces kept me going. I wasn't their mother, but I couldn't let them fall apart. By the second month, I'd settled into a routine. Work, help the kids, return to my studio. Juliana would call sometimes for updates, but I kept it brief. Caden's absence grew heavier. He'd mumble excuses about overtime, but never chipped in. Logan stepped up, handling grocery runs and soothing Nora's nightmares, but I saw the strain in his eyes. One night, he admitted, "I'm scared for Mom, but I'm angry too. She's never here, even when she's not sick." I nodded, my heart aching for him. I couldn't stay forever, but for now, I would hold things together. As I drove home, my sketchbooks waiting on my desk, I felt a quiet resolve. I was helping, but I wasn't going to lose myself again. Three months later, Juliana was released from the hospital, her newborn son in her arms. I had kept my promise helping the kids through her bed rest, but I was done. I met her at the house one last time, my resolve firm. "I'm leaving," I said, standing in the kitchen. "I love the kids, but I can't be a part of this anymore." Juliana's eyes narrowed. "You're abandoning us again," she snapped. I shook my head. "I've given enough. You're their mother. Step up." She didn't reply, just turned away. That was it. I walked out, cutting ties for good. I couldn't leave the kids high and dry, though. Logan, Callie, Hunter, and Nora deserved better than their parents' mess. I called Gemma, who lived closer to them. "Can you be their lifeline?" I asked. She agreed without hesitation. I started sending her $50 a month from my coffee shop pay to cover school supplies or snacks for the kids. Gemma set up video calls twice a week, and I'd walk Logan through algebra or help Callie outline her essays. Hunter loved showing me his science projects, and Nora would chatter about her drawings. It wasn't the same as being there, but it kept us connected without Juliana's chaos dragging me back in. Word trickled back through Gemma that Juliana's life was unraveling. The call center where she worked let her go for too many absences during her recovery. Caden packed a bag one night and left without explanation. He just disappeared. Logan told Gemma their neighbors stopped coming around, tired of Juliana's excuses and drama. The kids were struggling, but I couldn't fix their parents. I focused on what I could do, sending a little money, staying in touch through Gemma, encouraging Logan to keep the younger ones on track. It hurt to hear Callie's voice break during our calls, but I knew staying away from Juliana was the only way to protect myself. Meanwhile, I threw myself into freelance work. I'd been taking design classes online, and a classmate connected me with a small business that needed a logo. That one job led to another, then a website redesign for a local cafe. By the end of the month, I had 3 steady clients, enough to quit the coffee shop. My days were spent sketching, tweaking designs, and pitching ideas. My little studio was now filled with inspiration boards and color swatches. For the first time, I felt like I was building something real, something of my own. One client paid me $500 for a branding package, and I almost cried. It was more than I'd made in a week at the coffee shop. Gemma kept me updated on the kids, but also warned me about Juliana. "She's been asking about you," Gemma said during one call. "Says you owe her for everything she did for you." I laughed bitterly. She can't guilt me anymore. I'd learned my lesson after her stunt with the police. I told Gemma to keep my number private and only pass on messages from the kids. Logan texted me one night saying Juliana was having trouble paying the bills. I sent Gemma an extra $100 for groceries, but didn't contact Juliana. She'd made her choices. My focus was the kids, even from a distance. I mailed Callie a sketchbook for her birthday, and she sent back a drawing of us together labeled Best Aunt. Hunter called to tell me he'd won a science fair, and I cheered him on through the screen. Nora would ask for stories over the phone, her voice brightest when I let her make up silly endings. Logan was quieter, shouldering too much for a 15-year-old. "Mom's not trying," he admitted once. I told him to focus on school and promised I'd always be there for him, just not at Juliana's house. As my freelance work grew, I landed a contract with a Madison startup to design their entire marketing campaign. It was grueling. Late nights, endless revisions, but it paid enough to cover my rent and put a little into savings. I wasn't rich, but I was free. Juliana's world was crumbling, and part of me felt the weight of her fall, but I couldn't carry her anymore. The kids had Gemma, and they had me in the way that mattered. I looked at my latest design glowing on my laptop screen and felt a surge of pride. I had built this life from nothing, and no one could ever take it away from me.